Moving on to item number 4, which is also by Senator Richardson, SB 703.
I promise this one will be faster. Madam Chair and members, I'd like to first start by accepting the committee's amendments today and would like to thank the chair and the committee staff for working diligently with the sponsors in my office on this bill. SB 703 represents a critical step in ensuring that our state's trucking industry operates in a fair, legal, and transparent manner. Misclassification of workers as independent contractors is a long-standing issue in the trucking industry, particularly at our ports. Studies have shown that while 82% of port truck drivers are labeled as independent contractors, more than 80% of those are actually misclassified employees. The legislature has established important accountability measures over the years. However, enforcement remains a challenge due to the critical lack of data. I'm going to skip down and avoid some of these words, but I want to make sure I hit the key points for the chair and the staff. We recognize that the ports are navigating a complex landscape right now. Tariffs, labor unrest, energy transition are all contributing to a high degree of uncertainty. Since the bill was introduced back in February, I have actively engaged with stakeholders, and I'm pleased to note that those efforts have led to former opponents moving to a neutral position. I want to be absolutely clear. I'm fully committed to working in good faith with the ports to ensure that we get to a place where they feel that this bill is workable and implementable as we're asking for their participation. The amendments I'm accepting today are entirely in response to their feedback, and I will continue engaging directly with them to find thoughtful, practical solutions. My door remains open, and I will close with that, asking for a motion and your aye vote. Here with me today to discuss this important issue is Shane Guzman on behalf of the California Teamsters Public Affairs Council, as well as Elmer Lazardi with the California Labor Federation.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Shane Guzman on behalf of Teamsters California. We are the sponsors of this bill. I'd like to first thank the chair and your staff for working so diligently with us to get to the place that we're at. As the senator said, misclassification has been plaguing our ports, particularly the two ports in this bill, for many decades. It is a problem that causes a great exploitation of the workforce there, the drayage drivers, and we've been trying to address it with policies that this legislature has passed several times. And we are at a place now where we can get efficient enforcement if we just have the information we need. That's what this bill does. As the senator said, we've worked very hard with opponents that came out initially on the bill, getting them to neutral. You have our commitment that we will work with the ports to get to a place where they can feel comfortable implementing this. That's the goal. We just want to protect the workforce. Urge your aye vote.
We have a motion made by Ahrens and a second by Ransom.
Thank you, Chair, members. Elmer Lazardi here as well on behalf of the California Federation of Labor Unions. We are proud to support SB 703, which, as mentioned, will help protect workers from endemic misclassification in the trucking industry. Wanted to just note that worker misclassification often burdens drivers by leaving them without a safety net. We're talking about exempting them from workplace safety protections, workers' compensation, paid sick days, overtime, and reimbursement for their equipment and gas. Because trucking companies often force misclassified drivers to shoulder their business costs and to lease and maintain a big rig truck, an obligation that is nearly impossible for low-wage drivers to afford. This can often leave drivers so indebted to their boss that they end up owing more in truck and operating costs at the end of the week than they have earned in wages. I also wanted to note that misclassification also creates an unfair competition for businesses that actually follow the law, and it cheats the state as companies use this practice to avoid taxes and deprive the state of much-needed revenue. I'll end there by just saying that if we can ensure that the ports in LA and Long Beach collect this specific information on trucking companies entering their facilities, California can help stop this endemic misclassification and ensure that drivers are adequately protected and compensated for their hard work. Thank you so much, and we respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Now moving on to members of the public who would like to add on their support of this bill. Name, affiliation, and position. Seeing none, moving to witnesses in opposition to the bill. As I understand it, we have an opposition that was added on Friday, and the Port of Los Angeles will be providing comments accordingly.
Madam Chair, members, Andrew Antwi here today on behalf of the Port of Los Angeles. The Port has adopted an opposed unless amended position on SB 703 Richardson. But before I proceed, I want to thank the author and the sponsors for their open door policy and ongoing communication. This started off as a bill that applied to all the West Coast ports in California and has been narrowed to only apply to LA and Long Beach. So we are thankful for the ongoing communication. But unfortunately, we believe that more work must be done before this can accomplish the author and the sponsor stated goals. We're seeking additional amendments, and we hope that will be included in the bill before final passage. We have, between the two ports, roughly 20,000 daily truck trips at the San Pedro Bay ports. The provisions in SB 703 as currently drafted, even with the amendments adopted by the committee, and admittedly, those were based on communications with the author and sponsors. We're concerned that this could lead to delays at the port at a time that's very critical and uncertain. It's important to ensure that cargo fluidity at our ports remains robust because of the uncertainty in international trade market conditions. Currently, the port does not collect or have a system in place to collect driver-specific information that enter terminals at ports. Today, when a truck driver comes to the port, a security guard verifies by personal examination that the driver has a valid federally issued Transportation Worker Identification Card, or TWIC card. Any new mandate that would require the ports to collect driver data would require a new collection process with potential delays at terminal gates and significant investments to develop a new system to gather information on each driver that enters the port complex. In addition to the cost and time to develop a new system, the implementation of a new system would create significant challenges.
We'll have to have you wrap up.
I would just add that the proposal would be similar to requiring the Bay Area Toll Authority to develop a system that would require them to have vehicle information regarding insurance for each driver who approaches the toll gate before crossing the Bay Bridge for the rest of the time for each year on an annual basis. POLA recognizes the importance of safe working conditions and the negative consequences of worker misclassifications. We share the goals, but we just need a workable solution.
Thank you. All right, we have the right witness.
Madam Chair, members, Dan Shaw on behalf of the Port of Long Beach. First off, I want to express our sincere apologies for getting a late opposition into the committee. On behalf of the Port, we regrettably have an opposed unless amended position on this bill due to the undue burden it would impose on the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. But we're greatly appreciative of the author and the sponsor for their extensive engagement with us and for recent amendments in response to some of our concerns. Also to the chair and committee staff and for the committee amendments and the author's commitment to work with us as this bill moves. Port of Long Beach takes worker classification concerns very seriously, and we support the intent of the author and sponsors. However, as drafted, SB 703 would present major operational challenges for the ports. As mentioned by the Port of LA witness, our two ports see about 20,000 trucks a day, and we're currently experiencing highly uncertain cargo volumes given unprecedented actions at the federal level. In the midst of these challenges, this bill imposes new duties on the ports to collect certain driver information and to report it to the Labor Commissioner. It also requires us to receive data from trucking companies and to develop a system to manage and post it, which currently does not exist. Because SB 703 gives enforcement responsibility to the Labor Commissioner, we're asking that the bill be amended to have the Labor Commissioner or another relevant state agency like CalSTA receive the driver data instead of the ports. Additionally, we ask that the bill's effective date be pushed back to January 1st, 2027 to allow more time to properly implement the bill. Thank you for your consideration, and again, we look forward to continuing working with the author in this committee as the bill moves.
Thank you. Now moving on to members of the public who would like to add on their opposition. Note your name, affiliation, and position.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Pat Whalen on behalf of the Western States Trucking Association. In respectful opposition, look forward to continuing the discussion.
Thank you.
I'm Martha Miller, Executive Director of the California Association of Port Authorities. Also a late add on opposition, so apologize for that. Really appreciate working with the author's office and all the amendments that have been taken to date, but have to also have an opposed unless amended in line with the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach's request. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Nick Chappie with the California Trucking Association. We have removed our opposition to the bill as amended and greatly appreciate the author, the sponsors, and the committee for working with us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to now to committees for comments, questions, concerns. I see Assembly Member Rogers, followed by Jackson.
Thank you so much. So just a quick question, listening to the opposition and understanding that it's coming in late. It sounds like a lot of the data that is collected is already collected by state agencies. Have you contemplated, instead of putting the onus on the ports, putting the onus on state agencies that are already required to have some of that data? And I'd be open to hearing if that would work or why that wouldn't work. But it seems like that might satisfy many of the concerns that I'm hearing.
Thank you for the question. We have considered other ways of facilitating the collection of this information. I think part of the issue is, as we introduced the bill, we had it drafted a certain way. We took amendments for a lot of folks who were opposed to the bill. When we suggested going to a different approach for collection of information, it would have brought all of those opponents back onto the bill. So I think the bottom line is we need some time to try to figure out the best method. I would say that our view is it is appropriate for the ports to collect this information. They're a tenant, they're the landlord of a property where a lot of illegal activity is occurring. And I think we would want most local governments and agencies to at least attempt to police the kinds of things that are happening on their property.
Okay.
I have two brief responses to that. First of all, we received the opposition on Friday and today is Monday. So we've worked on this bill for 7 months and we're more than happy and open to whatever amendments that they have going forward for us to work between now and finishing the bill in the normal process. And they and you have my commitment to do so. What I would say to you that we have to be careful. We realize that this is a stretch for the ports. The port's job is to move that cargo and we get it. However, one of the problems is if you're asking a state agency to collect the data, someone just simply, sending in a bunch of driver's licenses and TWIC cards is not getting to the point. The ports are the ones that actually, when those trucks come in, they're scanning those license plates. They're scanning the TWIC cards. They're the ones that are collecting already this information, not in the sense of ultimately the data of how we need to use it, but they are the ones more than anyone that actually has some of that data, and that's why the ports were selected. But we certainly in no way want to hinder the port's activity, and we'll continue to work on the best solution. But that is the reason why the ports are selected. No truck, no driver gets on that port without it going through some information that they're presenting. And that's why they are best positioned to give us the information. An outside agency located where, that would really get away from the ultimate problem, which is making sure that the workers, the people who are driving those trucks, that we have the accurate information. And oh, by the way, why is misclassification so important? It was we heard with one of the witnesses talking about fixing the trucks. These trucks are carrying heavy loads and they're going on highways and people can get hurt. And so it's important to make sure that drivers are properly, and companies that are benefiting from these drivers are making sure that the trucks are properly serviced, maintained to protect the public. Thank you.
Yeah, and I didn't hear anybody disagree with the intent of the bill. I think I certainly agree with the intent of the bill and will be happy to support today. And given that, especially that it's late opposition on Friday, I hope you will continue to work with folks.
Yes.
It seems like this might be an easy circle to square, and might be able to get on the same page, because I heard the intent from the ports as well to make sure that you don't have folks who are misclassified and you have the right people doing the work.
Yes, sir.
Jackson, then Carrillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo my colleague in regards to this bill. I mean, obviously, a very important bill to ensure that fair labor practices are being followed, people are not being misclassified, but at the same time, understanding the regulatory and international trade environment that we find ourselves in. We really got to get this right? And understanding the tariffs, understanding all the other things that are circulating around this this issue, and certainly I hear that you are committed to continue to work with opposition. I would also stress the importance of doing so, but we obviously need to get this right and making sure that people are benefiting from the robust economic opportunities that are coming from the ports, and certainly we want to make sure that people are being paid right, treated right at the same time. But certainly understanding that we always have to be cautious about what we're doing at the ports, because obviously that economic opportunity starts in my colleague's district in Long Beach, but then has ripple effects in my district in the Inland Empire. And so we want to make sure that we are having all eyes on this. But thank you so much for your willingness to participate and continue to collaborate with opposition, and thank the sponsors for being willing to also try to find a way to get to yes. And so with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to move the bill.
I think it has a motion. Aaron's in Ransom,
Oh,
but you're the
okay.
third. There we go. Carrillo.
Actually, that was kind of my thinking of making a comment by Assemblymember Jackson, so I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And so we'll add on you as the fourth. We'll include the motion in there as well.
Can we just have an amen instead of an aye? Okay.
There we go. As long as we pass the bucket. With that, there is a motion and a second. Before I give an opportunity to close, I'll note I appreciate your commitment to truck driver transparency in order to highlight those who may be misclassified. At the end of the day, this is about protecting workers, all workers, and including those within the trucking industry. As you noted, there is still this outstanding question around where the administrative burden is placed on the ports versus a state agency. And as you know, I had serious concerns about that, about the ability for our ports to collect and make public the information that is required in this bill. And it is my understanding, as you've noted as a part of your testimony, and those from the sponsor and the ports and the trucking companies, that everyone is going to work collaboratively to continue to do so. And so with that, as I look forward to this author continuing this work with all parties to keep my committee informed on this resolution, or as was noted earlier, you'll be back here. And so as amended, I will be supporting this bill today and look forward to the continued resolution of the outstanding items. To the author, I give you an opportunity to close.
And I ask for your aye vote. And of course, I welcome all interactions with this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
SB 703 by Senator Richardson. The motion is due pass as amended to the Committee on Appropriations. Wilson?
Aye.
Wilson, aye. Davies? Aye. Davies, aye. Aguiar-Curry? Aguiar-Curry, aye. Aaron's? Aaron's, aye. Carrillo? Carrillo, aye. Harabedian? Harabedian, aye. Hart? Hart, aye. Hoover? Jackson? Jackson, aye. Lackey?
Not voting.
Lackey, not voting. Lowenthal? Lowenthal, aye. Macedo? Pappen? Pappen, aye. Ransom?
Aye.
Ransom, aye. Rogers? Rogers, aye. Ward?
Yes, that bill has 12 aye votes. We'll hold the roll open for members to add on.